Hello there, thrill seekers. Remember that my podcast is back and you can go listen to that, and my blog is back and you can go read that. And if you go on my blog and go to the events page, you can find out where I'm going to be in Europe. I'm leaving on Monday for Finland, where I'll be for about 5 days, and then Germany, where I'll be for about a week, and then France, where I'll be for another week. And the information about where I'm going to be in France is still coming in. We're still waiting to kind of gather it and find out what it is. So keep checking the events page on my blog, and when I have updates about that, you can find out. And if you are in the France, you can go and see me in the France, but I don't know where yet because I'm not sure where I'm speaking yet. But I will speak in this accent when I am in France, so I will insult everyone. Anyway, that's the deal with that. Now, people have been asking me from time to time to do a video where I would talk about the compare and contrast Advaita and Zen. And I am reluctant to do that because I can't kind of give a definitive answer. I've studied and practiced Zen for a very long time. It's getting close to 40 years now that I've been doing it, just shy of 40 years. So that's long enough that I feel like I can comment on Zen pretty freely. But when it comes to Advaita Vedanta philosophy, I've read a bunch of books, but I've never practiced it, in an ashram or something. But one of the places I'm going in France is an ashram, an Advaita Vedanta ashram, and that's where I'm going to be speaking. It's Gilles Farcet's place. I guess he doesn't consider it Advaita Vedanta. I don't know. It's. I think he doesn't like that label, but anyway, it's from that tradition. But that'll be my experience, which I haven't had yet. So I don't feel like I can comment extensively. So what I'm about to say is kind of like, here's what I think, as according to my limited understanding. So what is Advaita Vedanta, you may ask? Well, usually it falls under the heading of Hinduism. And as I often say when I mention that word Hinduism, the word Hinduism is a word that's largely used in India these days, so I guess it's not a bad word, but it was a word invented by the British. Maybe not even the British. It might have been invented by the Persians or somebody before them. But it wasn't invented by the Hindus themselves. So Hinduism is a very, very big sort of group of religions that are related to each other. But to call it one sort of monolithic thing is not correct. And same with Buddhism too, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but about the same. So the Advaita Vedanta tradition is Vedanta means the end of the Vedas, and the Vedas are their holy books of Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and other books like that. So it's supposed to be an advancement upon that, and Advaita means non-dual. So it's non-dual Hinduism. And it seems to have originated, people have different opinions about when it originated, but some people are of the opinion that it was something like the Hindus looked at the Buddhists and said, hey, those guys over there, those Buddhists have some good ideas. Let's see if we can rework some of our stuff and make it a little bit more like that. That's controversial. A lot of people don't like to think of it that way, but historically speaking, there does seem to be some precedent for saying that. So it does have ideas that are very similar to the Buddhist ideas, but framed in the language that the Hindus are more comfortable with. So the biggest difference you'll find is that the Advaita Vedanta tradition freely uses this word Atman, and the Buddhists have this doctrine of Anatman, of no Atman. And Atman, in the Buddhist sense, when they say that it's no Atman, is the eternal soul, basically. It's pretty much the same thing as the Christian concept of the eternal soul. Not exactly, but close enough. And that's what the Buddhists rejected. But the Advaita Vedanta version of Atman is quite similar to Jiko, self, which Dogen uses. So it's used in the sense of a large self, which is not confined to the individual and doesn't isn't confined to the individual, I think is probably the best way. So My main source of information about Advaita Vedanta has been the books of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. The first one I read was I Am That, and then I started getting some of the other books. Here's a couple of them I brought out. And he was a guy who was discovered in India. Well, discovered, it's the same thing as like Columbus discovering America. I mean, it was already here and there were people here. But then Westerners got introduced to it through the writings of Martin Friedman, I think is his name. And he put together the book I Am That because he sat with Nisargadatta Maharaj, listened to his talks, translated them to English, and then worked up a book. And then these two that I brought out are by Robert Powell, who's another, I think he's American maybe. I think Friedman was British, I'm not sure. Maybe they were both Americans. But they were English-speaking people who kind of translated this for Western audiences. Now, there are lots of similarities, and I'm going to read you some quotes that I found to try to give you a sense of that. Okay, consciousness is the sense of knowingness I am. Now, consciousness in Buddhism usually means the individual consciousness, and it can also mean consciousness in the terms of the 7 or 8 consciousnesses of Yogacara, but let's forget about them. Go look them up yourself. I'm not going to try to explain them in this video. In the Advaita Vedanta sense, the word consciousness is roughly equivalent to the word mind in Buddhism, in Zen Buddhism, anyway. Consciousness is the sense of knowingness I am, without words, and it appeared unknowingly and unsolicited. It is the manifest universal life force and, therefore, cannot be individualistic. It extends inside and outside like the brilliance of a diamond. You see a dream world inside you and a perceptible world outside you, provided the consciousness prevails. From the body level, you may say inside and outside the body, but from the standpoint of consciousness, where and what is inside and outside. Only in the realm of knowingness I am, the consciousness, can a world be, and so also an experience. Now, here's his instructions for what to do with that. Hold on to this knowingness I am, and the font of knowledge will well up within you, revealing the mystery of the universe, of your body and psyche, of the play of the 5 elements, the 3 gunas, and Prakriti Purush. We're not going to go into what those are, and everything else. But he's using these terms borrowed from Hinduism. Well, borrowed, I don't know if he considered himself a Hindu, but anyway. In the process of this revelation, your individualistic personality confined to the body shall expand into the manifested universe, and it will be realized that you permeate and embrace the entire cosmos as your body, in quotes, only. That is known as the pure superknowledge, Shuddha Vijnana. Nevertheless, even in that sublime Shuddha Vijnana state, the mind refuses to believe that it is a non-entity. But as one subsides into the consciousness, one develops a firm conviction that the knowledge you are, the sense of your being, is the very source of your world. This knowledge alone makes you feel you are and the world is. Actually, this manifest knowledge, having occupied and permeated the cosmos, dwells in you as the knowledge you are. Hold on to this knowledge. Do not try to give it a name or a title. All of that sounds like the instructions Dogen gives, but couched in different language. To me, that's my take on it. Here's another bit that I liked from Nisargadatta Maharaj. What makes you consider yourself a person? Now, I was just translating something or paraphrasing something from Dogen, who says, Buddha nature cannot be known by a person. The same kind of idea. What makes you consider yourself a person? Your identification with the body. Will this individual personality last? It will remain only so long as the identification with the body remains. But once there is a firm conviction that you are not the body, then that individuality is lost. And I think the only thing I would change from a Dogenistic point of view would be body and mind. It is, and he does get into that later, but he tends to separate the two ideas. It is the simplest thing. As soon as you have this conviction that you are not the body, then automatically, instantaneously, you become the total manifest. As soon as you leave your individuality, you become the manifest totally. But your true being is apart from even that which is totally manifest, and you assume this individuality within that total manifest so long as you are identified with the body. There is no individuality. What will you consider to be the one who meditates and the meditation? Now, here his description of meditation sounds a lot like shikantaza. When this individuality is not there, who meditates and on what? People talk very freely of meditation, but what do they really do? They use their consciousness to concentrate on something. Dhyana, that's also the word that has been re-pronounced. It's the same word as Zen. So he's saying Zen is when this knowledge, this consciousness that I am, meditates on itself and not on something other than itself. So that sounds to me like Dogen's instruction to turn the light around and shine it inwards. So I think there is a lot of similarity, maybe not even just similarity, it's almost the same sort of a worldview. Worldview means universe view, right? Between Advaita and Zen. The differences come in the matter of practice. Zen is very much interested in Zazen practice, and everything comes down to Zazen practice. When I read the Advaita stuff, they don't really seem to be all that concerned with a specific practice. Here in this passage I just read you, Nisargadatta Maharaj describes the way to do dhyana practice, Zen practice, meditation practice. In other places, he talks about, what the heck is it called? Mantra practice. And bhakti, which is a kind of devotional practice. The Hare Krishnas are big on bhakti practice. It's chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. I was just listening to the new mix of George Harrison's song, My Sweet Lord, and I got that stuck in my head. So, they're into all that and dancing around and singing and doing stuff. And apparently, Nisargadatta Maharaj, that was his preferred means of what they call sadhana. Sadhana is like your spiritual practice. So what he preferred to do as a spiritual practice is sing these bhajans, these kirtans and hymns, and do a devotional practice. And he considered that to be what he did. Whereas in the Zen school, we're very strict about Zazen is what we do. And I think there's a reason for this, which is that if you stick to one practice and see that through all the way, that's the best way to kind of, God, I was going to say get anywhere with it, but you're not really getting anywhere. But the best way to pursue a spiritual practice is to pick one and just completely do it. The people who kind of try to pick every spiritual practice and do all of them end up getting a very shallow bit of a bunch of different practices, but they never get to the heart of any one. So the Zen school has picked this one thing, which in the Hindu system is called dhyana. It's sitting in silent meditation, and said we do that. And that is what we do, and we really pursue that all the way to the end. Now, having said that, you can find some other examples, and somebody asked me about this the other day, so I'll tell you the story. Is Kosho Uchiyama Roshi. Yeah, Kosho Uchiyama Roshi was a Zen practitioner, was a student of Kodo Sawaki Roshi, who was also the teacher of my teacher, Nishijima Roshi. And when he got older and he started having problems with his legs, like a lot of people complain about, and he couldn't really sit Zazen very well, he took up Nembutsu practice. And Nembutsu practice is basically, essentially the same as mantra practice in Hindu. You just repeat a sound, and in this case, in Nembutsu, is usually the one people prefer is Namu Amida Butsu, which is praise to Amida Buddha, who's the Buddha of the Pure Land, and you're saying praise to Amida Buddha. And I even watched an episode of Ultraman, Ultraman Ace, the 1972-73 series, in which a monster is attacking, and one of the guys on the team is scared of the monster, and he starts going Namu Amida Butsu. So, very widely practiced thing in Japan. So he started, that is, Uchiyama Roshi started doing this Nembutsu practice, which is essentially the same as a mantra practice. So basically he switched his, if we want to put it in terms of Advaita Vedanta, he switched his sadhana, his spiritual practice, from dhyana, Zen, to mantra, which is nembutsu in Japanese. So the similarities are very great. The one big difference that I find, which is something I want to talk to Gilles Farcet about when I get to France and start talking to him, is in the area of ethics. And as far as I can tell, the Advaita practice doesn't emphasize ethics nearly to the extent that Zen practice does. And Zen practice has a ton of emphasis on ethical behavior. And it also has this idea that what you do is kind of out of your control anyway, which is an interesting contrast, because the Advaita Vedanta people sort of take it as what you do is out of your control anyway. It's the workings of karma. You're part of a huge machine. Anything you think is your free will isn't. I was just reading something from Nisargadatta, or maybe it was Ramesh Balsekar, who said, I'm going to do this, even scratching an itch isn't free will. The itch has to appear first before you scratch it, so you're responding to something even then. You think you have free will, but you don't. Zen also kind of questions this idea of free will, but it also insists that you should do ethical behavior, and as I've said before, I sort of take that as meaning that we have free will, but our free will is quite limited. But with that limited free will, you really should try to pay attention and do the best you can with it. And as Nishijima Roshi used to say, habit is stronger than heredity. So if you build up a habit of always doing ethical things with the little bit of free will that you have, that becomes your new karma, your new heredity, and you start to follow that instead of the other one that you were following before, and that's where ethics comes in. Boy, I tried to put a lot into a little video, didn't I? I hope that made some sense to you, and just as a reminder, like I said at the beginning, I'm going to Europe. I don't know how often I will be able to continue the videos. I think most of the places I'm going have Wi-Fi, but I'm going to be quite busy, so we will see. I'll do as many videos as I can when I'm over there, but it probably won't be this 3-day-a-week schedule that I've been doing for the last year and a half or so. But I'm going to keep doing as many as I can, so I hope you join me and check in on what I'm doing, and I really appreciate it. Also, I will continue to need your support, because I'm not going to be making very much money over there in Europe, especially this time when everything costs like 3 times as much as it used to. So if you want to send me some money, you can go to hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. I hope I'm pointing to the right things. And you'll find my Patreon and PayPal links, and you can send me a donation that way. I really appreciate it, because that is pretty much my only means of support right now. But as always, this is given for free. This is a donation from me to you, so you don't have to pay if you don't want to pay. So there you go. You got it for free. Anyway, we will see you next time, whenever that is. Have a good time all the time. Laters. Bye. Hey, Ziggy. How you doing? No? What do you think of Advaita and Buddhism? Do you think you have free will to scratch your ear? You're not interested in this free will debate, are you? All right, Ziggy.